Welcome to International Talks. Today we're going to talk about the recent report by the US intelligence community. Report about the foreign interference in elections of 2020. This report concluded four key judgments. First is that no foreign actor tried to intervene in technical aspects of the elections, which includes voter registration, ballots, or the results. Second, Russia conducted influence operations denigrating Biden's candidacy, supporting Trump, undermining public confidence in the electoral process, and exacerbating the sociopolitical divide. According to the report, Kremlin used its proxies to push the narratives against the Biden through media people or the people who have close ties to former President Donald Trump. The released document provides us with the examples of the Ukrainian member of parliament, Andriy Derkach. He, according to the document, played one of the key roles in Russia's activities in interference of the US elections. He was the person who provided Ukrainian media with the tapes which allegedly have a conversation between Biden and former President Petro Poroshenko, where Biden presses Poroshenko to fire the General Prosecutor of Ukraine, who was supposed to investigate alleged corruption crimes conducted by Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son. This case is well known as the Ukraine Gate. And in exchange, Biden promised $1 billion loan to the Ukrainian president. And Rudy Giuliani, the lawyer of Donald Trump, met with Andriy Derkach in Kiev several times. He then advocated the most and was the most vocal about the alleged corruption investigation of Hunter Biden. Another Ukrainian, Konstantin Kilimnik, who according to this report participated in Russia's efforts to denigrate Biden's candidacy, was meeting with Paul Manafort, who in fact hired him as his assistant. This person is identified having close ties to the Russian intelligence agencies by the Mueller report, which investigated the Russian interference in US elections of 2016. The report directly says that Derkach and Kilimnik were meeting with the persons in Trump's administration to force the investigation against the Biden. And Russia used another methods to interfere in US elections. For example, they've used the Lakhta internet research, so-called troll farms, where they tried to influence the media and social media narratives. One of the members of this organization was charged for wired conspiracy. You can read it on the sites of the DOJ. And of course, Russia's state media, like Russia Today, pushed its narrative against the Biden, just as the domestic medias in the United States. Report also talks about the cyber attacks conducted by the GRU, Russian intelligence agency, and they were targeting primarily DNC, the political actors close with Biden, and tried to find compromises on the Biden's family and pushing Trump's narrative. Intel community evaluated that Kremlin viewed Biden as a threat and supported Trump based on anti-Biden messages. The Islamic Republic of Iran is also mentioned in this report. Unlike Russians, Iranians, according to the report, tried to undercut the re-election of the President Donald Trump. They also were conducting cyber attacks and pushing for the further socio-political divide. The report says that Iran's military agencies implemented overt and covert operations, mainly influencing the media and social media by propaganda, exacerbating socio-political divide, and pushing the concerns about the electoral process, about the economic recession in the US, civil unrest, and so on. Apart from that, there was a campaign where they were sending emails to hundreds of US citizens to push the narrative against the elections. And it is not surprising that current Iranian government does not wanted Trump re-elected, because Trump was one who withdrew United States from the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA, which I have a video about, and you can watch it by clicking the link in the description box. China, surprisingly for many, did not try to interfere at all, nor pushing the influence efforts to try to interfere in the US elections, according to the report. Report says that they assessed the risks and tried to have a stable policy against the United States and not exacerbate the current relations, is because the United States has a bipartisan view on the Chinese regime. Other foreign actors are also mentioned in the report. However, their role in comparison to Iran and Russia was minuscule. These are Cuba, Venezuela, and the Lebanese groups. As we can see, many foreign actors tried to intervene in US elections, but this process is of course reciprocal, and we know that the United States also tried and tries to have its own influence and push narratives in the domestic political affairs of other countries. And the most vivid example is the US interference in Iran's domestic politics of 1953, when CIA itself admitted its role in the overthrowing of the Mossadegh government. And you can view these documents on the National Security Archives. These types of documents usually do not lead to arrest of any US citizen. It's very rare because the arguments and the evidence must be very solid, and in many ways the targets are just too high of a political figures to be arrested. For example, the Mueller's report, which did not result in jailing of the acting president Donald Trump, despite the opposition willing so. He was acquitted of charges of abuse of power and obstruction to Congress just recently. Paul Manafort, on the other hand, whom we already mentioned, was jailed for tax and bank fraud. Furthermore, US legal system allows third parties, organizations, private companies, or even states to lobby their favorite project or the policies. For example, the Nord Stream AG lobbied Project Nord Stream 2 and paid millions of dollars to the lobbyist firms. And not only in US, in EU as well, they were spending through the years millions of euros. And if you want, I have the video on the Nord Stream 2 sanctions, and you can also watch it by clicking the link below in the description box. The elections in US are considered as somewhat of a sacred thing, and we already see the rhetoric has changed by the Biden, who called Vladimir Putin a killer and said that he would pay for the interference. Also, we can see that UK Prime Minister saying that Russia is the #1 threat to UK, which in itself means that we have to be waiting for the new wave of the tensions and escalations. And obviously, the West will be pushing for the post-Soviet countries by supporting them in anti-Russia narrative, militarily or economically or politically. And at the end of the day, we don't know how far this escalation will lead. However, I will keep you updated on the subject. Until next time.